Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From closed session, direction was given to staff, but there was no reportable action on any items. Thank you.
Thank you. Next time, we have open session, Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Riggs, would you, on your return from vacation, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yeah, please stand and salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, very nice. We have adoption of agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Call the roll. Are we electronic tonight? Oh, we are. Okay.
Oh. It's great. Oh, there it is.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next item, presentation and proclamations. Shall we switch and do the swearing in first? Yeah. Why don't we do that? That way we'll.
Yeah.
So number 2, swearing in of new officers, Assistant Chief Jess Darnell. Come forth.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council. With your permission, we'll proceed. All right, come on up, everybody. Please line up and face the crowd. So what's going to happen right now is I want all of you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter for the City of Oroville Police Department. I have a mouthful. All right. At this time, we ask that the elected members of the public who our officers have chosen to have pinned their badges on for them, please come forward. Please come all the way forward. And at this time, we will have our elected persons go ahead and pin the badges on your officer.
It's okay to draw first blood, too.
It's actually good luck.
Chief, are you going to introduce him?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and especially families who came up. And I just really want to quickly say that the men and women you see standing up here have essentially written a blank check to this community up into their own lives to support, to protect, to serve, and to help this community at all costs. So it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you Officer Colby McGee. United States Marine Corps, I might add. Officer Hunter Lee. Also United States Marine Corps.
See a trend here.
Officer Brandy Van Poel. Officer Garrett Malden. And Sergeant Kathleen Sukasa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your service. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah.
Welcome, thank you. Welcome. We appreciate you. Welcome.
Yeah, we have no rush, thank you.
Who's your dad? I know Rick well. Bill. Thank you. Welcome. You did a good job. Very nice celebration. Family and the officers, we're going to move on to their agenda. You're welcome to celebrate with them outside if you like. Or you're welcome to sit through our agenda and learn about the rest of what the city does. Thank you all.
Nice group.
Lovely. Brian, Frickers.
Right. Yeah, he's going to receive it? Yeah.
Perfect. I didn't know he was coming, so that's good. Getting a whole new department. All right, folks, thank you. We'll get back to our agenda. Next item was under presentations and proclamations is number 1, the resolution of the Orville City Council recognizing the 100 years of the Service Club by the Rotary Club of the City of Orville. I'm going to ask our Vice Mayor to read that.
Good evening. City of Orville, Resolution Number 9278. A resolution of the Orville City Council recognizing the 100 years of service by the Rotary Club to the City of Orville. Whereas the Rotary Club has been an integral part of the City of Orville for the past 100 years, providing an unwavering service and support to the community. And whereas the Rotary Club of Orville was established on April 11, 1924, and since then has been dedicated to the motto, service above self, striving to make a positive impact on the lives of the residents and the community as a whole. And whereas the Rotary Club has played a pivotal role in numerous community projects and initiatives, including, but not limited to, gazebo at Sank Park, enhancing the beauty and utility of Sank Park with picturesque gazebo, Sank Park Carriage House, contributing to the preservation and restoration of the historic structures in Orville, Martin Luther King Park Bandstand, creating a venue for performances and community events fostering cultural enrichment, Riverbend Park Snack Stand, providing amenities to park-goers, enhancing their recreational experience, July 4th fireworks celebrations, organizing annual celebrations that bring joy and a sense of unity to the community, international projects in Liberia and Honduras, extending humanitarian efforts globally, promoting health, education, and substantial development, international exchange student program, fostering global understanding and cultural exchange among young people, Rotary Youth Leadership camperships, investing in the leadership potential of young individuals through camps and training programs, Orville Lights Project to light up Feather River Bridge, contributing to the beautification and safety of a key city landmark, awarded 2024 Top Service Club by Orville Chamber of Commerce, recognized for exceptional service and dedication to the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City that the Orrville City Council hereby recognizes and commends the Rotary Club for 100 years of outstanding service and dedication to the community, and be it further resolved that the City of Orrville extends its heartfelt gratitude to all past, present members of the Rotary Club, whose tireless efforts and generosity have significantly contributed to the betterment of our city. And be it further resolved that the City of Orrville looks forward to many more years of partnership and service with the Rotary Club as we continue to work together towards a brighter and more prosperous future for all residents, and passed and adopted by the Orrville City Council at a regular meeting on June 18th, 2024, by the following vote.
I entertain a motion for the vote.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll.
Motion passes unanimously.
Brian, could you come up and accept Rotarian Brian Frickler and Tammy too? Tammy, take a picture. That's great. Thank you.
Turn this thing
There
on.
you got
There
it.
we go. Our motto is service above self, and so we don't do these things for recognition. We do appreciate being recognized. I was amazed when I joined the Rotary Club 7 or 8 years ago of the things that we did. Eric made a list there, but he only named off about 10 or 15 things. We do 4 or 5 major things every year. The Rotary Park, the Chinese Temple Koi Pond. We do scholarships every year, 3 scholarships for high schools. Support our youth in lots of different ways. But anyway, if you're looking for an opportunity to serve your community, I would encourage you to come to Rotary. You'd be amazed how many people you know that are members that you don't know are members. I was amazed when I joined, I knew about half of both clubs. So if you're looking for an opportunity to serve without having to come sit on a board every Tuesday night, I encourage you to come check out Rotary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Very good. All right. Now we move next to,
Oh, no, we have the other res.
Do you want to do the other? We had a special meeting.
oh, yes, yeah. So how we're gonna?
Just run it concurrently with this one.
Okay. So we're-
And can you correct me, Dave, if I'm incorrect? We can run it concurrently. We just have one more proclamation. He'll present that, and then we'll close that special meeting out and then continue with our regular. Perfect.
So I open a special meeting? Call it to order, a special meeting of the Orrville City Council for proclamation presentation. And our vice mayor is going to read it for us.
Get my reading in for the day. A resolution recognizing Sierra Pacific Industries for receiving an award from Cal OSHA, City of Orrville Resolution Number 9283. Whereas Sierra Pacific Industries, located in Orrville, California, has demonstrated a strong commitment to workplace safety and health, as evidenced by their diligent efforts and proactive measures to ensure a safe working environment for all employees. And whereas Sierra Pacific Industries has been recognized by the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health, Cal OSHA, for its exemplary safety practices and outstanding achievements in occupational safety and health. And whereas the award from Cal OSHA highlights Sierra Pacific Industries' adherence to stringent safety standards and protocols, which serve as a model for other businesses in the region and the industry at large. And whereas the recognition by Cal OSHA underscores the dedication and hard work for all employees at Sierra Pacific Industries, whose commitment to safety has contributed to this prestigious acknowledgement. And whereas the Sierra Pacific Industries' accomplishment not only reflects positively on the company, but also enhances the reputation of Orrville, California, as a community that values and promotes workplace safety and employee well-being. And whereas the leadership and staff of Sierra Pacific Industries deserves commendation for their ongoing efforts to maintain a safe and healthy work environment, thereby protecting the well-being of their workforce and setting a high standard for other organizations to follow. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Oroville City Council, do hereby recognize and congratulate Sierra Pacific Industries for receiving this esteemed award from Cal OSHA, and we commend the company for its unwavering dedication to occupational safety and health. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Sierra Pacific Industries as a token of our appreciation and acknowledgement of their significant achievement and contribution to workplace safety, passed and adopted this 18th day of June 2024 by the following vote.
Entertain a motion for that resolution?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
There's someone here to receive
No,
this.
they're having a celebration on Thursday at their facility for all their employees and everything. We'll make that presentation there, but thank you all and thank the council. It's a unique thing because it's the only sawmill in all of California that's receiving the award, so it's a big deal. All right. Moving in through the agenda, thank you, Vice Mayor, for reading that. Public communication, any non-agenda items? Do we have any slips?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. We'll begin with the cameraman and follow that with Sherry French.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. I don't have much to discuss tonight. Hope everybody's enjoying. Oh,
There you go.
no worries. I hope everybody's enjoying our start to summer. It's cool right now, but we're going to be getting into the heat later on next week. Also this week, CAL FIRE is going to be doing some burning out by the forebay. So if you guys see some smoke out there between the 20th and the 22nd, if they don't cancel it for weather reasons between now and then, that's what's going on out there. I attended our another session of our Civics 101. It was on fire this time, a very important one to attend. For those who weren't there, I learned some knowledgeable things. Mainly, I got my question addressed about barbecues in the park, regards to homeless and cooking in them. I know some have been taken out. I hope those get replaced back, knowing from what they explained, basically, it's pretty much, it deals with the fact that, homeless, mental illness, it's kind of like a recycling symbol. It's all this one triangle. But basically, regardless if there is a barbecue or not, they pretty much just set up anywhere. And on matter of fact, on the way to this meeting tonight, I saw a guy over by the new little ramp they put in over by Riverbend Park as you're going over the Randy Jennings Bridge. There's a tent over there, and this guy has looks like a charcoal barbecue. So he's got his own barbecue, so he don't really need to set up and burn in the grass. I hope he at least made a dirt area so anything that falls on the ground doesn't immediately start a fire. But I think for those that want to use the parks properly, we should have access to the barbecues and maybe bring those back, regardless of the knowledge of the fact that these people will use them regardless or not. Also on the subject of homelessness, I learned this past week that I guess there was maybe a little tiny place, some of these guys set up with a big storage container unit type deal. But pretty much Oroville has become the only city now in Butte County where you can take your cans and bottles to a recycling facility. And I just want the city council to, make sure that there's no ordinances in the future that's going to restrict those businesses, and two, this is crucial for the people that make little income. I mean, that's going to restrict them to progress in our community. And mainly it's all these businesses in Chico, from what I've gathered, got all together, and you can take your cans back to Walmart. If I go and buy something, Walmart has a CRV tax, they're supposed to accept it back and give me my 10 cents, or they pay the state $300 a day to opt out of that program. Now, I don't know if all the businesses in Chico are doing that. It's kind of costly, but what I've gathered is this is a strategic, systematic way to drive the homeless out of Chico. If they think they can't get money for recycling, they won't come back. But now they're going to come to Oroville more. So I'll conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Next
Thank
up?
you. Up next, we have Sherry French.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Question.
To something the cameraman said. I appreciate you bringing up the issue of the barbecues. I'm inclined to agree with that. So Riverbend Park is controlled by the Feather River Parks District. And so if the community is concerned about that, they are considering pulling the barbecues. So if you would, let your voice be heard and express your concern regarding that. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, come on up.
Good evening. You're my last resort. I have contacted my representative and the Director of Public Works. This is a safety issue. And if I didn't feel so strongly, I wouldn't be here. I'm a commissioner on the Oversight Committee, if that helps a tiny bit. Traveling north past Nelson Avenue roundabout on Table Mountain Boulevard, there's a 45-mile-an-hour speed sign. Then, not very far from that, there's a small yield to a pedestrian sign before the entrance to Flying Cloud Road. People ignore the yield sign and accelerate past the intersection at Mono, at Flying Cloud and Table Mountain. And this is a safety issue, and it's a recipe for disaster, and I'm here to address it so that nothing really fatal or horrible happens, that maybe we can do something preventative about this before something does happen. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Smith, do you have a question on it?
Just a comment. I think, Mr. Mayo, I believe that concern was raised in this public discussion about the Washington project. And so there was some discussion by staff to look into that concern. So I don't know if you have just express where we are with that.
We still need to get the speed trailers out there with the radar equipment on it to do a traffic study, because there is a certain protocol we have to do with any type of traffic calming plans. And the traffic trailers have been over on Boynton and other areas. We just haven't had the opportunity to get out there yet.
Yeah. But this, I guess, I'm just pointing out that this is something that is being looked at, and so more to come. So, but thank you again for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Appreciate it. Councilman Weber had a comment?
Yeah, thank you. I actually would like to piggyback off that as well, because I get complaints from my constituency downtown as well. I know that there's been other complaints about different districts that have these issues. We've obviously got a speed issue in a lot of areas. So I would like to figure out how we could do a traffic calming study in all these areas. You know, I don't even know if that's the right vernacular to use, but how do we look at that, where we could look at, because I could identify certain streets downtown where I'm at. Obviously, Montgomery is one of them, clearly has issues. Pomona is another one. Fifth Street's another one. And I live on Bird Street, and people race down Bird Street all the time. So I see people every single morning. I'm out on my front porch drinking coffee, and people blow the stop sign by my house, like every morning. And I think this is not just with respect to what you're saying, because that is an issue, and it needs to be validated and addressed. But I think this is not a centric to a neighborhood issue. This is a citywide issue, because I think every one of us have streets in our districts that are like that. I mean, I know, Scott, right around the corner from your house, you have the big dip that is, everybody races down that, right? And so I think this is an issue citywide. So I think it would be worth our efforts to identify those streets and to see what kind of calming measures we could have, police presence, whatever it looks like. So, thank you.
Thanks. Councilman Thompson.
Yes, I know we've had discussions on ways to slow traffic, and being around Boynton a lot and seeing, talking to one of the neighbors there. I appreciate the new stop sign, but talking to the neighbor that lives right on the corner, I know it's not necessarily, actually I'm represented by whole, what do you call it? By, I don't have a district yet, at large. So it is my district, actually. But now the problem is with the stop sign, people stopping and then peeling out there. I know I've brought up several times those rolling bumps, the speed bumps. Why, can you remind me why it is that that's not a good idea or shot down? Because I know different neighborhoods and cities use them, and the cities that I see that do have those, it seems to work really well. Especially, you go over those fast, it's really going to potentially damage your vehicle. It's not fun.
Spencer.
Sure. Well, to deploy those type of devices like speed bumps.
And I'm not talking about the
There's
plastic ones, I'm talking about like asphalt,
Sure,
ones.
even speed tables, undulations, whatever you like. You have to have a comprehensive speed study on it. You got to have the traffic data for it, and that has to be actually designed by a traffic engineer, because we can start getting into a little bit of an issue if we're just going out and deploying things without following the established procedure on these traffic calming procedures. There's an established way of doing this, and it needs to be approved by a traffic engineer.
Yeah, you could get in a
That's part of
situation
it.
where you create more liability based upon
For
the
the city.
actions that you do. So we do have a process, and I appreciate it when everyone's, when we're doing the best we can. We have 2 new speed trailers actually in the budget. We're trying to get more of those so we can deploy them and do more studies. And when we do get complaints, I know this was news to me, but I think we have, I know I heard about the one in Montgomery last week, so we can do that. Obviously we'll do them as quickly as we can with the resources, but we do want to get the data. But then what you try to do after that is, and there's a protocol on the Public Works website that kind of spells this out for folks if they want to see this. But then after that, we try to do the least least intrusive traffic calming measures first, and you kind of build your way up. But certainly, we could get to the point where there's stop signs, speed bumps, speed humps,
Tables.
rumple strips. We've talked about a lot of things again up by Orville High School. So we do have some ideas, but we just want to go through the process and make sure we
Apply 'em.
do what we do to mitigate the issues as best we can.
Yeah, and I just to follow up, I'm all in favor of stop signs where pedestrian crossings are involved. But personally, specifically speaking of the stop sign there on Boynton, I think that was more to stop, or slow people down. But I think, obviously we want people to slow down, but I know people are just blowing through it. And people who are stopping, like I said, it's an additional nuisance to people living there when people are stopping and then revving up real loud or peeling out there. So
Yeah, I think
I'm definitely all in favor of, I think from people that I've heard from, there is a reception in our community to measures that might be annoying, to continue to decrease the amount of speeding and reckless driving and, you name it, that
Yeah.
is pretty rampant in our town.
No, I hear you, and I do agree with. Forgive me, I don't know who said it, but the law enforcement presence, I think, is an important component to that. And I know the assistant chief and the chief, we've talked about as they get more fully staffed, to hopefully have more law enforcement presence from a enforcement perspective as well. So it's part of the whole package. And then obviously there's those folks that no matter what you do, they're gonna continue to drive aggressively. But we got to do what we can.
Yep.
And even, I don't know what we can do about people who are getting to these intersections pretty regularly and then just doing burnouts. From my house, you can hear them almost weekly somewhere in town. Somebody's just like, and it is infuriating for me, at least. Maybe I'm getting old, but it just drives me insane.
I declare I'm not old and it drives me insane.
Looks like Councilman Riggs in the queue.
I was just going to say that, the instance that you're speaking of the stop sign that was deployed without the comprehensive study is the exact reason why the comprehensive study is necessary, because that stop sign was, I know, I'm defending policy and procedure. That stop sign was deployed outside of that policy and procedure, and come to find out, although helpful, also created a whole other litany of issues that are also not great. So as I hate to be the one to say, well, we have to be patient. However, that is a really good instance of following the policy and procedure allows us to really look at it holistically. Yes, a stop sign was needed there. Likely additional things were needed there too. Had we done that whole process, it would have taken longer. It's still occurring. But we could have also implemented those other things concurrently. So procedures are good.
A little bit.
Every now and then. I do appreciate, though, quick action, so I won't say that I'm mad about that. I love it. I love a little quick action also.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We're going to try to be doing that more. I'll meet with the city administrator and kind of have a more of a.
It was effective.
Yeah.
It was very effective. People were breaking hard.
We will take steps to do what we can to ensure that the traffic laws are enforced and the public safety is adhered to.
Councilman Johnstone's in the queue.
Thank you. So yeah, out on 18th Street, between Grand and Oro Dam 2, we have constant racing and speeding going on over in my neck of the woods too. So just putting it out there that if we could get some extra law enforcement, maybe to roam our streets over that, in that way, that would be amazing.
Okay. Okay, we're still under non-agenda items. Do we have any cards left?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
Up next, we have Bill Spear, followed by Brian Williams.
Okay.
Council, I would just like to give thanks for our new officers and pray protection for them and for our police department. Father God, we thank you for adding the increase and for all those who dedicate their lives in the protection of our community. We pray your blessings upon them and your protection, that you would continue to enlist and call out people that have a heart for service. We thank you for our chief and our assistant chief and for all those who serve. And again, we pray for your protection for them, for their families, that they would prosper, that our city would prosper, all our the servants of our city would be lifted up, would overflow with your blessings and your anointing. We love you. We thank you. We give you all the glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Up next, we have Brian Williams, followed by Linda Draper.
Council, I want to piggyback back onto the fires and Patrick Civic 101 class. I had a chance to envision what the planes and the people in the planes and the people on the ground were doing when the two fires broke out. So that was very, very cool as a citizen to see some behind the works of how the fire department works. I addressed the fire chief in that meeting about the need of the Fire Safe Council in this community, and they don't have any resources, and we did not hire them for preventative maintenance either in the fire contract. So I would like to see if the city would be willing to make some type of donation to the Firewise Council to see if they can get a foothold into Oroville, where they would in long term get volunteers to help establish the program here, because we do need a lot more fire protection and education and resources for them to follow. Pardon me as I look at my notes. Next year, can we have the GOAT start before the fire season starts? I would really, really like it, and I think the rest of the community would too. I see on our agenda that we're hiring electrical contractors to do some city work. Could we get them to can we do an FRP for the Bedrock lights? We would really, really like some lighting over in Bedrock Park, if we can. And then we also have the MOU with Feather River Parks Recreation District that should also already be able to provide us some lighting. Maybe St. Francis could also help us with that order, since we no longer have a city electrician. I came across a disturbing article, and basically what this says is I have a feeling that the Gateway project may become a public works project. And that is very scary, obviously due to cost. When the city gives somebody land for less than value, the Department of Industrial Relations has deemed numerous projects as far back as 2013 that they have to be public works. And so I would imagine that would be a big headache and a wrench to get any of those projects off the ground. And I think whatever property tax value we're saving by not paying the property tax on our own, we might want to relook at that. Also, in my travels with Wes and Patrick and trying to figure out city codes in relation to some building projects, I found a couple municipal codes that are completely outdated, and they're affecting the ability for staff to act appropriately and for me to plan appropriately. And so I wanted to see if there is a way, other cities do this, at the bottom of every municipal code, it says what ordinance or whatever mechanism that created that text. Could we have the most recent one that's also listed down there, put the date next to it? And that way, as citizens who are looking for help to proceed those things.
Sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Linda Draper.
Welcome, Linda.
See all of you. I wasn't planning to speak, I just came to listen. But on the subject of the speed bumps, I have to say something. I turned in a petition with about 100 signatures early in November, doing the traffic calming thing, right? And with details requesting speed bumps before at least 9 stop signs in our area there around Oroville High School. And I was thankful to see that the 2 stop signs were added down on Boynton. And I have also talked with the neighbors down there, and there are those who run it, but there are also those who stop. And so I would say it's decreased their problem maybe 50% with the people that were zipping through there at 50 and 55 and more miles per hour. But on the subject of, what to do elsewhere, I really feel it might be worth looking into for the city to check on the new technology that they have now. It involves stop signs, and they can take a photo of people that run the stop signs. Some cities are fining drivers who do that $100. And I'm not saying that would be the ideal amount, probably less would be better, but they work.
Yeah.
People don't want to get fined. And then they stop.
Yeah.
And I think it could save lives. And just like at the roundabout in May when that little boy got hit by a car and those cameras weren't working down there at the roundabout, I think we need more than cameras. I really think we need something with some bite, and cameras attached to stop signs might just provide that. And people might think twice about running them then. But I appreciate that you guys are concerned about this issue and you're trying to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Weber's on the queue.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Question?
We raised this several months ago about those stop signs and the proposition of it. And I think Fred, Mr. Mayo, didn't you look into some of that?
I believe there's legality issues with cameras on
Yes.
stop signs and radar signs. I
There
won't
is.
try to speak to that, but
I remember we had a discussion about this because I raised that same thing because you're right, they're very inexpensive, but there are groups in California that have fought it and the cameras, and there's all kinds of legality that surrounds it. And so I know we had a discussion about it and we were looking about it because that is, they're really inexpensive and it would be super easy to install the technology. But there are groups out there that have opposed it, so there are legal issues. But we could certainly, I think, council could probably look into legal issues of what's surrounding that, because I remember we had a discussion about it and there was a bunch of hurdles.
Yeah, one of the issues was the fact that you couldn't tell who was driving the vehicle. You can see the license plate, but you can't confirm, so who do you assign it to? But there might be other ways. We can definitely look into it. I think it's worth, try to be creative as we can. Maybe there's some sort of other thing we do in an ordinance to pass that addresses it, but.
Yeah.
really good information around Phoenix school districts where they had some of those cameras, but it's legal to operate them there, where the cameras were on these radar signs in school areas during certain times, and it's posted between 2 and 4, the camera is on, and if you're speeding, you get a ticket. It's been pretty effective, but again, I believe there's some type of laws here in California that I can't speak to.
Well, can we look into that, just to refresh our memory, please?
All right. Any more cards left?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Weber, are you back in the queue?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is reports and discussions. Council and any councilman have any announcements or reports to deliver? If not, we'll move on to, go ahead. Oh, Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, so 4th of July is coming up. We're raising money. We have a display. It will happen at Nelson Park, as well as you'll be able to view it from the forebay from State Parks. So that's all in the hopper. It's going to happen. But if you want to make our show bigger and better and brighter, there's still opportunity. Just put that out there for what it's worth. But it's going to be a great celebration in cooperation with Feather River Parks District and the city and, of course, Chamber of Commerce. I did want to make mention, again, back to OPD. Good job. I made a call. I saw two gentlemen having a sharp dispute at Table Mountain Boulevard and Grand. Got on my phone, dialed the the dispatch, and the dispatcher said, "We're already on it." Awesome. And within seconds, there they were, 3 squad cars. So just, again, great job. So I just see this amazing improvement with our response times, and I just want to point that out. So often people get frustrated, feel like, why call? No one responds. Yeah, we're responding, and you're doing a great job. I had a call from a chamber member the other day complaining about something, and I said, "Did you call?" "No, because nothing happened." I said, "Call." And so then I went and made a visit, and guess what? They got a response. So I just want to point out that, maybe there was a time when we were challenged with responding, but it seems like we've really turned a corner. And so I just want to give, kudos again to OPD in doing a great job. And getting things accomplished for the folks. Additionally, I got a call from Feather River Parks District last month about a bunch of felony damage out at the park. Someone had decided to cut down trees, and that person was apparently apprehended, and that issue was addressed. So again, just good police work, and I just want to point out that, Assistant Chief Darnell, amazing job. Thank you. And, of course, to our Chief Lagrone. And just more good work to come, I'm sure. Thank you.
I'll pass that along. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Weber's on cue.
Yeah, thank you. The Juneteenth celebration was this Saturday at Martin Luther King Park. I attended along with I think you all did. I'm not sure, but it was a lot of fun. I seen a lot of great folks there. Had a lot of fun. Ate some great barbecue chicken. Just a good event. So I wanted to give a shout out about that. And then I also wanted to thank the OPD too, because there was that issue on Spencer where there was, on Montgomery. And quickly you guys dispatched that officer that sat there for the day. And it was evident as I drove up and down throughout the day doing my regular business. I seen the cars braking hard once they seen the officer sitting there. And now that we have 4 new officers, I'm hoping that you'll get them radar certified and get them out there and do some regular traffic, patrols. So that'd be great. I also wanted to thank Ron for your work up at the railroad right here. It looks awesome. When you cut down that all the trees right there where they were congregating and driving those poor folks crazy that live right there, and the cabinet shop business and whatnot. The highly irritable situation with all that activity back there. So. I thought that was a brilliant move to get rid of all that low-hanging, all that trees. That was awesome. And then lastly, I want to, all the department heads, you all deserve accolades for all the stuff that you do every single day. But I also wanted to give Fred and Wade at Public Works credit for all the work you guys are doing on the roads. I mean, the Washington Street improvements are great. Bird Street, I mean, we could go on and on. 5th Street all the way from Montgomery over to Oro Dam. I mean, I could go on and on and on about all the work you guys are. So you're taking that money that this council's giving you, you guys are running with it, and you're making the streets way more drivable, and you're making this council look awesome. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the support.
All right. Any other council reports? Seeing none, I'll look for administration reports.
I have one.
Who wants to go? Patrick.
I just wanted to say thank you to the fire department for their efforts last Thursday night for the Civic 101. It really was, I mean, we've had 3 people talk about it already tonight, but it really went well. Amy showed up to be Matt's entourage because Matt Bergstrom was one of the presenters. But they talked about They gave a history of the department, and then talked about the air support that during fires, and then spent a little time on defensible spaces. So it was really informative and well received. So.
Yeah. Who's up next? No? Fred?
Last council meeting, I was asked to give some type of an update. I'm glad we touched bases on the streets last year versus this year, and our numbers aren't done yet. But last summer, we got about 18,000 square feet of asphalt done. And currently, as of today, and we still got several more weeks of work, we're about 45,000 square feet of asphalt. So we've over doubled it, and we're still doing it. So.
That's great.
Yeah, we're really knocking it out of the park this year. I'm really proud of the street crew. There's been a lot of hybrid of some of the parks folks helping as well. We have been working at night, in particular over on Washington and other areas because of the heat. The mastic and the material wasn't curing as well in the hot sun, and it's safer for us to work. So there might be some inconveniences for the folks on Washington, but that should be over pretty soon. So I just wanted to make sure you got updated on that.
Excellent. Thank you. Well done.
I had a quick one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to update the council on the next request statistics since it has been approximately 6 months since our software did go live. That's the Public Record Act request software that we did go live with. Since we went live, we've received 103 Public Record Act requests. Of those, 97 of them have been completely fulfilled.
Oh.
With the 5 that are still remaining, they are in good standing. And what I mean by good standing is legally we have 10 business days to respond or to request an extension. So those 5 we have are still in good standing, and they're working the process. Currently, the average amount of time it takes for us to close one is 4.4 business days. So we're doing really well in that aspect. And then of that 103 requests, 261 documents have been downloaded by the public.
That's cool. Very good. Good to hear.
That's all I have.
Amy?
Yes, I just wanted to update the council on the grant that we submitted for affordable housing, sustainable communities. That was the Nelson Point project. We did receive a threshold determination initial score where it is showing that we're ineligible based on one of the answers to our application. However, they do have a process for appealing, and we have appealed the 3 points that they have suggested, so we're still pending for that. We're not out of the game, but another hurdle.
Good, thank you. Councilman Thompson?
Yeah, actually, can I have a question for Amy? I was having a discussion with somebody just about grants. I think one of the challenges that Oroville faces is, I hate to say it, but obesity. And I do believe that part of the reason for that, we have your personal, everybody's personal accountable for their own actions and what they eat. But one of the things that goes into, as you know, obesity in certain groups is finances, quality of food, access, and all that kind of stuff. And so being that Oroville just, oftentimes it's cold and rainy, or in the summertime it's super, super hot. And so that just creates for, even I know as a parent of kids, oftentimes people don't want to go outside because it's 120 degrees with basketball and that heat is kind of sweltering. So I don't know if there's any, my point is, I don't know if there's any grants available for an indoor sports complex that would encourage youth and even adults to be able to be more active in an environment where it's not cold and rainy or 120 degrees. So I'm not sure if there's...
So there are grants that could go towards the development of that, but that would require a lot of different funding sources and probably some private injection too. As we'll talk a little bit later tonight, for the CDBG, which is what we typically, an avenue we have to create something like that, the maximum amount would be 3.6 million. And I'm sure that would cost a lot more for that, but it's something that we can look further into, but I'm not really sure. I would need assistance to get all the funding layering for a project like that. But yeah,
It would
we
just
can
be,
definitely
I know
look
it would be amazing to have some kind of a sports center, again, where you can play soccer or volleyball or basketball. I know we have for basketball, you have the,
What is it called? Orville Convention Center.
Yeah, the Oroville Convention Center. And my brain says it's not the Muni anymore. It's not
I
the
know.
Muni anymore.
I have
It's
to
not
go
the
through that
Muni anymore.
process
It's not
every
the Muni
time.
anymore. But yeah, I would definitely, because I know that the cost on even our system for, the healthcare and whatnot for, obesity being one of the actually is the largest determinant for death, compiled in with diabetes and heart disease, and it's only getting worse. So just and a way for our community that oftentimes is of lower, there is definitely a demographic in our city that's of lower income. That affects quality to healthy foods or access to healthy foods. And again, with our kids just being dormant inside, and I know with technology it's hard now to compete with that, but some way to at least provide access to a place where they can get their energy out for all ages.
I'll make contact with a couple of people that I know. I kind of think that some of this is through bonding for financing, but I will do a little bit of research and try to come back with something for you.
Thank you.
I should add to that, the BCOE, Butte County Office of Education, has a nutrition program that I actually went to Sierra Avenue School last Friday. And they, at the end of the summer, or at the end of the day for summer school, they had a whole distribution of fresh fruit, produce, and then they have their traveling kitchen. Craig Morgan operates that, and I got to do the welcoming for the kids to go through it. And speaking to your issue about childhood nutrition, there might be some partnership with BCOE on that, because they did have an ATP grant there, plus about 4 or 5 other agencies, steering kids toward growing their own food, cooking their own food, and teaching cooking classes to 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 8th graders, which is a real positive thing to do. And I was remiss, I did attend that as a welcomer so BCOE might be a reach out to help with that. It's called the Cal Kids program. So, all right, administration reports.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just really quickly, I just want to get the word out that there is an RFP on the street right now for a program that would a lot of people refer to it as 311. But essentially it's a program that allows community input, or for community members to easily provide input to city staff with regards to whether it's potholes, code enforcement violations, any information. So that is something that we have been looking into, and the RP's on the street. I believe it closes July 10th or 11th. So more to come on that as we kind of work through that process. But I think it'll be a helpful tool for both community members and for staff going forward. Also wanted to give a huge shout out to the Public Works. As you all know, you probably saw on the news today, there's a lot of chatter on the news, not only on the work that's being done on Washington and Table Mountain corridor, but on the ATP grant that Fred and his team have been working tirelessly for the last couple of months, but really a heavy lift the last 2 weeks to get that grant application in. It was due last night at midnight, and it was submitted. So fingers crossed here. It's a super competitive process, but ultimately we're excited about the opportunities in that corridor. 2 quick things. I wanted to pass on our condolences to Bud Bolt. I think everybody heard of his passing last week. We've had some nice conversations with his family. They are looking at doing a memorial, I believe, in July or August.
Yeah, possibly August.
Yeah, and they are looking at trying to incorporate obviously the Bud Bolt museums in some shape or form. So we'll keep you and the community members aware of that. And finally, I just want to welcome Alyssa, day 2.
Oh, yeah.
So welcome to the team, and we're glad to have you.
Well, let's introduce her so the rest of them know who it is.
Alyssa Stutz, she is our new, for those of you who weren't here when the council adopted the contract, either at last meeting or 2 meetings ago, but Alyssa is our new Assistant Director of Public Works and City Engineer, and we're just thrilled to have her on our team.
Any other administration? Looking at eyeballs over there. Anybody got anything to say? All right, we'll move on. Consent calendar, as presented. Any council have questions on consent or any items to pull, or do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
A second.
Any questions from the public on consent calendar from the cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
Regular business. Item number 5 is the 24-25 adopted budget. Ruth's not here, so I guess it's on Brian, huh?
Actually, we have Ruth. She is zooming in from afar this evening. I don't know if she has on her bunny ears, or her mouse ears, but we'll. Oh, there she is. She is.
There I am. I'm unmuted. Hi, I'm calling. I'm tuning in from the happiest place on earth. There are no changes from 2 weeks ago on the budget. It's the exact same budget. So I'm here if you have any questions.
Love your ears. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
I am. I really am.
Yeah. All right. Hello, everybody. Council questions? Any cards from the
No, Mr. Mayor.
audience? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Motion
Yep.
passes with 5 yeses and 1 no and 1 absent.
All right, next item. Number 6, presentation to update council on the Mission Esperanza Pallet Shelter Project. Susie. Oh, excuse me.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, Susie Cockums is here with Still Consulting to present information regarding the Mission Esperanza project. She's going to provide us with the status of the project and budget updates. And then we also have Wendy here from Butte Construction Company who will provide us with an update on the timeline of the project.
Welcome, Susie.
Hi, good to see you all.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Susie Cockums. I am a consultant with Silk Consulting Group, and I am a consultant for both the city and for the Oroville Resource Center and Rescue Mission. They've done some rebranding, so I've got to get that name under my belt. Wanted to give you guys a 30,000-foot view of where we're at with this project. So a few updates for you. And then I'm going to call Wendy up from Butte Construction. She's going to go over the timeline. And then if you have any questions, we've got some staff here from the mission as well. So busy time for us. So you guys should have the PowerPoint in a paper format. So I'm going to go through it real quickly and save some time for questions. We are currently wrapping up the pre-development phase, which took way longer than we thought. Some of the reasons that the process took longer are listed up there. Lots of things came about during planning and development that we were unaware of, obviously, when we wrote the grant applications, and obviously have to be remediated so we can move forward. So we had a few things: repair and relocation of a low PUD sewer line. We have to put in a new PG&A power pole, addition of a fire hydrant, not really sure where we're at with that one. Addition of a trash enclosure, other water line replacement, another sewer line and manhole needed to be replaced, or needs to be replaced, additional interior insulation, and then tons of architecture design and engineering time. All things that took longer and most we didn't know about up front. At this point, we are budgeting $2.88 million for the project, which is way over what we originally estimated. We have had to move the budget line items around to compensate for that. We are sitting very strongly right now. We anticipate with some additional costs for fees that we don't have those figures for yet. The project will top out about $3.2 million, and that's just for the construction side of things. What's funding that $3.2 million is $4.4 million from encampment resolution funding, the 2 grants that we wrote, and both were funded. And then the ARPA funding from the city and the ARPA funding from Butte County. So with that, our total is a little over $5 million. 3.2 million obviously going to the construction budget, and that leaves 2.5 million to cover other costs associated to the project that aren't construction. Some of those are listed here: the pallet shelter units, utilities, and most all of these that are listed there are being leveraged with other funds, including donations to the mission, other grants that we're working on. So some of these figures look pretty low. It's because that's what the ARPA funds and the ERF funding are covering, but there's also another side to that that's not in here that's being leveraged with other funding. Of all of the ARPA and ERF funds, this is how the funds are going to be expended per our budget. You'll see 56% of the overall amount is coming, being dedicated to construction costs. 28% is operations and staffing costs. We have 12% is going to be for housing assistance. So for folks that want to move out of Mission Esperanza or Esperanza Village and move into permanent housing, that's a subsidy that will help them. That's 12%, and then 4% is overall project administration. As I stated earlier, we've got a lot of leveraging going on to make this project come to fruition. One of the things when we first got it started with just writing the grant applications is if we build it, they will come, but how do we sustain it? So something we've been really focusing on and for the last 18 months is how can we bring the funds in to pay staff? We're going to need more staff. We're going to have more clients. We're going to need more staff. We're going to need more food. We're going to need more transportation. I mean, building capacity is essential, but we have to be able to sustain it. So I spent a lot of time working with the mission staff on ways to raise funding. We're rewriting policies and procedures. We're rebranding. There's so many things behind the scene that are happening at the same time so that we can tackle Mission Esperanza with our best foot forward. So one of the things that I'm happy about with the delay in getting this project started is that an opportunity came about through the state of California to become a CalAIM provider. And CalAIM is a 5-year pilot program where the state has worked through their managed care plans to expand their service categories and the people that they serve under Medi-Cal. Long story short, we've signed up the mission to become what they call an ECM and CS provider. Those are two different types of service, enhanced care management and community supports provider. Now that they are considered service providers, all the services that they're providing can be billed to Medi-Cal under this new pilot program. With that, there's potential at this point, if we are at full capacity at the existing mission and at Mission Esperanza, that'll bring in about $1.3 million.
Wow.
Which would sustain operations on top of donations and continuing, obviously, to look for other grant funds. Again, that's at full capacity, so it could be less than that, but we're hoping full capacity and that $1.3 million. Yes?
Use myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I need to. 'cause
Well, are we going to vote on anything?
No,
No,
No, this is just informational.
just information.
It's just informational.
It is informational, but to the extent that this might come up as a discussion point or council might ask interactive questions, my recommendation would be because there is a community property income interest that Mr. Weber, you know, if he elects to, could recuse on that
So
basis.
noted, based upon yours. You bet.
I'm sorry for.
No worries,
No,
no
that's
worries.
all right.
Thank you.
On top of becoming a CalAIM provider, we've also worked with Butte County on some funding for adults in the program. We've also applied for what they call an incentives program through CalAIM. That was just awarded 2 weeks ago. And then we will submit an application for Sierra Health Foundation to support some of the equipment needs. It's only $10,000, so we're potentially going to use that funding to purchase bunk beds for Mission Esperanza. And we're continually looking for additional funding that supports our mission. I'm going to call Wendy up here in a minute to give you a little bit more detail, a timeline on the construction side of things. This is what we're looking at, 30,000-foot view. Outreach and engagement is a significant component of the encampment resolution funding. Rhonda's got a team out there doing the engagement and outreach in the community. We will also have, we already have an outreach engagement team that goes out as well with Ron. We will have a concentrated engagement closer to the opening of Mission Esperanza. I got to get the term down. We're now calling it Esperanza Village. Right now, we are at the tail end of the pre-construction, hoping to break ground before the end of the month, and I'll let Wendy share more on that. We do have a deadline with the state of California on the ERF2, which is the first grant. We have to be at 50% expended by the end of this month. We're going to hit that target, no problem. At this point with the timeline, we are anticipating that the Mission Esperanza will be available in the month of December. So we're going to do a soft opening, take 5 or 10 clients into the program, work out some kinks. There's a couple different reasons for that. We want to work out the kinks, but December is a really super busy month for the mission and the staff. So having them do a grand opening and open the floodgates, if you will, and letting 110 people in while they're trying to get everything else done around the holidays is just way too much. So we're going to have a soft opening. We're going to do 2 different open houses, if you will. We'll do one for all service providers in our homeless continuum of care, invite them to come, and then we'll do another open house where we invite the elected officials from the city and the county, the newspaper, and we'll have it'll be 2 different conversations with those 2 different groups, but everybody will be able to participate in one or the other. And then come January 2025, we will open fully. Hopefully all the kinks will be worked out, and then we'll really switch gears and focus more on all of the concentrated engagement, which will probably start in November, if not October, because then we can start working on cleaning out the encampment area. Ron's team will work with us on that. We're actually going to be working on the policies and procedures for that here pretty soon, since we're kind of got the timeline down and know when we're going to open. And then from January on through 2027, we'll be doing all of the reporting. And then 2 years after the grant closes, we still have to work on outcomes reporting. So, I'm sure this is not the last time you're going to see me. We'll come back and do lots of reports on how many people we're serving, some demographic, aggregate data that we can share. And same kind of stuff we'll be sharing with the state.
All right, excellent.
Yeah. Any questions before I call up Wendy?
No, thank you, Susie.
You bet.
Well done.
Thank you. Wendy? I'd like to introduce Wendy. She's from Butte Construction, who is our contractor, and she's going to share a little bit about the timeline and answer some questions if you have any. Here you go.
Welcome, Wendy.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just to reiterate, I am the project manager for Butte Construction. My name is Wendy Tuata'o. I am focusing on making sure we get this project done on time or within reason so that it's the project you expect it to be. So right now, we're hoping to break ground in June, that permitting that we get our permit. With everybody's expectations being met with fire life safety and any other building or site requirements. Subcontractors have been signed off and are prepared to break ground or get boots on the ground. The one thing I am preparing them for is our public works process. I guess my next thing is in my schedule, or my preliminary baseline schedule that I have, is 170 days total, both construction of the building and site package. And then I've also incurred about a 10-day weather delays just to make sure we have some type of contingency. I can elaborate a little bit more, but so for the construction portion, like I said, it's 170 days, which is about 35 weeks, 32 to 35 weeks. Site work should be about 70 days, and then the building itself would be about 115, and just keep in mind that there's a lot of concurrent activities, overlapping activities, and we're just really making sure that all of our communication amongst our subcontractors, city, and developers are aware of what's going on, and any additional changes that may or may not develop, we keep in communication and forward any additional delays or days of construction.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Wendy. Any questions from staff? Or not staff, but the council? Sounds good. Sounds like it's moving well forward.
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank everybody that we've been having meetings, I think, every 2 weeks on this. And it's, anytime you have a big project like this, you know, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you start breaking ground and learning of where sewer lines are. There's been a lot of collaboration and good partnerships with everybody involved. So it's taken a little longer to get it off the ground, but we are pressing forward as quickly as we can with really working hard to get this thing soft opening in December.
I actually know our legal staff helped us on some of the issues in the right-of-way issues and the easement issues. So I guess it takes a village to get things done, and that's what's happening here.
Most definitely.
Yep. Thank you. All right, good things coming. Would you go get Councilman Weber, come back, yes? Pardon? Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Next item, and thank you, Susie, and work. I also want to thank Annie back there. It's been a long time coming, huh, Annie? Yeah. Item number 7, Community Development Block Grant Application. Amy.
Good evening, Mayor Pittman and council members. The State Office of Housing and Community Development has indicated that they will be releasing the 2024 CDBG NOFA at the end of July. Once the NOFA is issued, there will be a 30-day review period, and once that 30-day period ends, the applications will open for 60 days. Over-the-counter applications are first come, first serve, and then the competitive applications won't be reviewed until the end of the 60 days, and they will be ranked. Please keep in mind that this presentation is based on what HCD has told us will be in the NOFA, and like last year, there is a possibility it could change. I've prepared a short presentation to outline the eligible activities. A little bit of background. The city of Orville is what is considered a non-entitlement jurisdiction, and this who does not receive an annual federal formula allocation from the U.S. Department of Housing and Community Development. The city of Orville has to apply every year when funding is needed. The California Department of Housing and Community Development makes grants available to non-entitlement jurisdictions. So we don't apply directly to HUD, we apply to the state of California. The purpose of the CDBG Fund program is to provide decent housing, suitable living environments, and to expand economic opportunities, primarily for low and moderate income persons. The CDBG objective is to benefit low and moderate income LMI persons, aid in the prevention of eliminations of slum and blight, and to meet a potential of urgency, like we had with the dam. The CDBG definitions of low and moderate income: low income is below 50% of the area median income. Moderate income is below 80% of the area median income. And in 2024, the AMI for a family of 4 is $96,600. In 2024, the income limits for Butte County, which are updated annually, usually in May or June, the low income of 50% or below for a household of 4 is $45,350. And the moderate income is below 80% for a family of 4 is $72,500. In accordance with HUD regulations, at least 51% of funds must be made available for activities providing housing and for low and moderate income individuals, families, and households, or by providing opportunities including housing infrastructure. An amount equal to 30% is set aside for economic development activities, and awards made for public services may not exceed 15% of the total funds available statewide. They also have a limit on a general administration of 17% locally or 20% statewide. So for the 2024 NOFA, it's expected to be released in July with approximately $30 million of federal funds. These are the following mixtures of applications that can be submitted, and one is a 1 OTC project, 1 OTC program, and 1 competitive, or 1 OTC project and 2 competitive, or 1 OTC program and 2 competitive. So 3 total applications per jurisdiction. Each jurisdiction is able to apply for up to $3.6 million. For an over-the-counter project, the maximum amount is $3.3 million. For the over-the-counter program, it's $1.5 million. And for competitive applications, which include public service and planning, the maximum is $300,000 each. Jurisdictions must have a housing element in compliance with the state requirements, and they also must be shovel-ready, which means that we have to do an independent cost estimate, the NEPA environmental review, bid-ready plans and specs with the engineer certification, construction timeline, engineer certification again, certification from the jurisdictions that were ready to go, and then a map highlighting the project area. A little bit about the projects. An OTC housing project is first come, first serve, and we can do multifamily. So the next I'm just going to go over the type of projects that we can do in programs. We can do multifamily housing rehabilitation. We can do acquisition of real property for multifamily projects. We can do public improvements first in supportive housing, which includes new streets, curbs, gutter, sidewalks, and sewer laterals. For OTC community development projects, we can do improvements that are not in supportive housing. We can purchase fire trucks, engines, and fire equipment. We can build public facilities or repair public facilities like fire stations, homeless centers, senior centers. We can do sewer storm drain projects, sidewalk improvement projects, street improvements, and acquisitions of property. We also can do OTC for economic development, and those are commercial industrial building acquisitions, construction, rehabilitation, and other improvements, or public infrastructure to support a profit business. They also have programs under over-the-counter, and those include single-family rehabilitation loans, homebuyer assistant loans, business assistant loans, and micro-enterprise loans. So competitive applications are public services and planning TAs. Public services, I've just put a couple there, but we've done domestic violence services, youth services, recreational, and job training, and then we also have planning and technical assistance. Planning and technical assistant grants are designed to improve the overall capacity of a city to undertake and manage local programs or projects using CDBG funding. So they're to get the ball rolling in projects that we might later fund with CDBG funds for infrastructure. Types of plans that we could include are community development plans, capital improvement plans, environmental work, but we cannot use these funds to do engineering and architectural design. So these are the staff recommendations. Staff met, department heads met, and executive staff met to discuss the city's needs and potential NOFA's eligible activities. Although we recognize there are a number of programs and projects that we could do within the city, we thought that these recommendations could maximize the allowable funding limits and set the city up to be able to apply for infrastructure projects in the future. So we are recommending that we submit one OTC application to purchase an aerial ladder truck and a fire engineer, and the total of that is estimated to be at $3.1 million. And then we are recommending to submit two competitive planning technical assistant grants. One was a Southside Village Core Master Plan, and the other is a drainage plan and street acquisition for Elgin and Fort Wayne streets. General admin is specifically 7% of the total ask, and we're requesting to ask $3.6 million, so the total maximum amount for the jurisdiction. I'm also recommending that we apply for a program income only application to fund our first time homebuyer program, which we currently do not have any funds in CDBG for. And we would use cash on hand and future receipts. I have $1 million here, but I'm probably going to come back asking for $1.5 million. We currently have about $800,000 on hand. So staff is continuing to build the scope of work and cost estimates for the planning TAs. We expect that they will require the full allotment of the funding requested. When I bring the item back for a resolution, we will have all those amounts solidified. For the program income, I'm hoping to fund 10 to 11 first-time homebuyer programs. And with the fire truck and the fire engine, we're supporting that because it is such a high cost for the city's budget, and if we can utilize grant funding to maximize that, we felt that that would leave other general funds dollars for other studies or other things that we might need to expend it for. And it's important to note at this time, an engine and truck build out is taking 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. I'm available for any questions.
Staff or council, any questions of Amy?
So,
Vice Mayor Smith, please, on the queue.
So, last year, of course, we made the painful choice on some of the other organizations, the YMCA, others. Does this have any impact respecting that? So are we ending then helping some of the nonprofits? And so what is that, how does that impact the women's domestic violence program? Yeah.
So yes, obviously that is a choice that we still have to make. That is a eligible expense, and we are no longer funding any of the public services because they have expired. When we met with the department heads, we were trying to go over the items that we felt were needed, that the city needed to fund and come out of our budget, and it was felt at that time that we really kind of needed to focus on what the city needs were and that were coming out of the general fund.
So the question I have, has there been any conversation with some of those organizations that have typically relied on some of this funding?
So I have not made contact with anyone yet. I was pending this discussion tonight. If that is the case, then I will be, if you guys follow this recommendation, I will be touching base with them. They will have the opportunity to come to the public meeting that we will be having in July to speak on their behalf. But again, I didn't want to go that route without.
And so when do we have to make the decision for the CDBG grant monies? Where are we at with the timelines here?
Okay, so the NOFA has not come out yet, so we're ahead of the game. It's planned to come out at the end of July, and we will have 30 days to review the application, but then once they open it, applications have to be submitted right away because they're first come, first serve. So we would need to know pretty soon so I can start developing the application to be ready to submit when it opens.
I understand the staff time and to develop the package and to get it prepared for submission and all that. So you're kind of ahead of the curve here.
Trying to be.
Okay, Councilman Weber has a question in the queue.
Yes, thank you very much. What is the traditional amount that has been awarded to those nonprofits from this grant?
It is varied by year to year depending upon what the NOFA.
Right.
Last year, it was based on their budget and their ask, so it ranged anywhere from 175,000 up to 400, or actually it was 500,000. We've done 150 in the past, we've done 80 in the past, we've done 300 in the past, and it depends on which public service was.
Okay, and then, so, and I had to recuse myself last year through the further discussion, but that basically, it's whatever the council's will is, and it's awarded to one entity, right? Is that how it goes?
So
Or is that
it's
distributed to
that's
others?
also dependent on CDBG. This year, they're allowing 3 applications. Last year, they allowed for 2. So we are only able maximum to do 3 applications, and each public service is considered an application.
Okay. And so then if I'm wrong, please correct me, but if I'm hearing this correctly, then you're recommending we focus on our needs and equipment and all that, okay? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ruth, were you trying to come up?
No, she wasn't,
Oh,
sir.
okay, all right. I'm in the queue real quick, and I just want to add a comment. As you see the sticker shock of the cost of the fire apparatus, it surely is a sticker shock. But I also had, make a comment about, we just had an example of why you want to have ladder trucks, and that was the Marysville Hotel fire Saturday night.
Yeah.
In Marysville. The ladder trucks were the significant factor to prevent the spread of the main fire to other parts, other buildings in the community. So there's a high value there, and it was just one example of why the ladder trucks are so necessary to have that elevated water stream. Made a big significant difference. In fact, they did make an interior attack, but they were forced back, and so they pulled back, and the ladder trucks have saved the day. So, and that fire's still burning, actually. It's another topic, but Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one further comment. So we're kind of changing our approach here because of the rules that have changed. And so I assume that you've really spent a lot of good quality staff time to really dive into this and say, this is the best, from obviously staff's perspective, best foot forward for the meeting the needs of our community as a whole. Because, I think we're probably going to hear from some folks, but, and I would expect that. So, but I just wanted to give opportunity maybe to voice that.
Absolutely. I've been funding public services since I got here 20 years ago, so it is a difficult move for me, but staff overall felt that that was a better use of the funds to maximize some of the things that the city has needed and wanted to do and been asking for in relation to South Orville and the drainage issues that we have there. Brian is going to recommend that, you want to leave it?
And I'll say, that we've had a lot of discussion on it, and it is challenging, and the rules do change every year, and like, as Amy said, there's two, I mean, this year we can do 3 applications, so we could, another option could be one OTC, over-the-counter project for the fire engines. We could split up the other 2 that are competitive, but, you know, ultimately, if you get to that point, then you have, you can award, if you want to do 1 planning grant, then 1 for public service, that would be another alternative, but then you know, it's a challenge because there's not enough to go around for everybody.
And we felt the pain of the council last year going through that elimination, too. That was very difficult. And then we tried again for Catalyst when we were able to, but then they pulled it out again, too. So it was just to a point also that we don't know from year to year what CDBG's requirements are going to be and what we can do. And so it's getting difficult to manage that way. And it's hard when you have them relying on the funding that you're providing, and then one year you don't get it, and then next year you do to restart a program. So it just makes it difficult to manage.
And I would have to just say that they've gone a whole year now figuring out how to manage without this funding stream. So, for whatever that's worth. The various organizations, obviously, that have, you know,
Right.
and sometimes you can grow dependent on grant monies, and these monies aren't guaranteed forever. I mean, they're, as they are, they're grant monies that are one-time ask, and then, you know, you have to reapply every year. So I think it's just always important for nonprofits to always understand that moving forward. Just as we listened to the Esperanza presentation, and I think brilliantly presented the sustainability piece, right? And oftentimes we get these opportunities and we can build something, but then we have to maintain that something. And so.
Because that is another project that could utilize CDBG. I mean, there's so many public services that we would love to be able to fund if there was another source or we had unlimited applications or maximum limits.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any public comments cards on this item?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other council questions? I'd entertain a motion for action.
So moved.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Next item, number 8, November 5th, 2024, general municipal election resolution relating to Article, oh my goodness, XXX5, voter approval of low and very low income housing located at 2131 Fogg Avenue. Amy?
Yes.
I see we have some other reps in the audience too.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Pittman and Council. The Housing Authority of the County of Butte has requested the City Council adopt resolutions necessary to call a special election and to place a ballot measure before the voters regarding Article 34 approval of low and very low 18-unit housing project located at 2131 Fogg Avenue. Article 34, Section 1 of the California Constitution requires that any low-rent housing project defined as exceeding 49% low and very low income housing may be developed, constructed, or acquired by any state or public body only after the qualified electors of the jurisdiction approve the project at the election held for that purpose. The requirement for the measure to pass a majority vote is 50% plus 1 of the votes cast. At the time that Article 34 was passed in 1950, the real estate industry argued that taxpayers should have the right to vote on low-income housing projects because they were publicly funded infrastructure similar to schools and roads. There is a lot of history and differing opinions about the effectiveness, discriminatory nature, and relevance of Article 34, so much so that there have been several efforts to repeal or weaken Article 34. So far, each effort has failed at the ballot box, but in 2020, the state legislature made another attempt, but again have decided to postpone adding it to the ballot because they have been unable to find interest groups willing to fund what's expected to be a $1 million campaign in favor of getting rid of it. Article 34 is much less of a barrier to low-income housing construction than it used to be. For example, when private projects are funded by federal or state tax credits and a portion of the units of the project are set below low-income residents, a vote is not required, and that is what you've seen with the low-income housing tax projects that we've brought here. That's why they were not required to go through this Article 34 process. However, the Housing Authority of the County of Butte is a nonprofit public agency. Therefore, it is required that they get Article 34 authorization to proceed with the project. The Department of Housing and Urban Development provides funding to the Housing Authority to administer HUD programs. Ed Mayer and Larry Guanzon from the Housing Authority are here if you have any project-related questions, but really this is just an avenue in order for the Housing Authority to get a vote on the next election for our voters to decide whether they want this project to move forward.
Let's introduce our gentlemen. Come up the podium.
Ed and Larry.
Welcome, Ed. Larry.
Mayor Pittman and members of the Oroville City Council, very nice to see you. My name is Ed Mayer. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of the County of Butte. We are here tonight, and let me introduce first. This is the other item of business.
Yeah.
Larry Guanzon here, who's been Deputy Director of the Housing Authority for, I believe, 8 years, and been with the authority for over 17, will be Executive Director of the authority as of July 1st. I will be stepping down and moving on, and Larry will be taking over. So I want you to know Larry, particularly because I will say in my 15 years in service as Executive Director of the authority, we've had a wonderful working relationship with the City of Oroville. We've gotten lots of good things done. Your staff is terrific. Just listening to the CDBG presentation and this presentation, thank you, Amy, you're awesome. Anyways, you've got a great staff and we have a wonderful working relationship. We want to maintain that, so I wanted to introduce you to Larry. Larry's background is in property management. His specialty is in working out difficult properties, so he knows how property management works. He used to run RSC Associates in Chico and comes out of the athletic traditions. He's a team player. Anyways, what I wanted to get to tonight, very important. It's very interesting to find ourselves in a position. The Housing Authority of the County of Butte, we're a public agency organized under the Health and Safety Code of the state of California. Our mission is singular, to provide housing to low and moderate income citizens of our jurisdiction, which is Butte and Glenn County. But in the case of a publicly funded project, and we're a public agency, we have to request permission of the voters to be able to build what we seek to build. That's why we're here tonight. We're here not just to ask you to put this, adopt a resolution to place this referendum on the ballot, but we're asking the citizens of Oroville, permission to be able to build 18 units of housing on Fogg Avenue. We're looking to build 18 one-story units. They'd be one-story bungalow style, designed for singles and small families. 16 one-bedroom units, 2 two-bedroom units. It's on a site, Fogg Avenue. The Housing Authority bought the site back in I believe it was 1990, 1991, when the Housing Authority was acquiring the property to be able to build the housing at Hammond Park. We built Hammond Park, 27 units of public housing, without Article 34 authority. None of you were sharp enough to pick up on the fact that all of Oroville's public housing, like many jurisdictions, was built without Article 34 authority. Article 34 was passed in 1950, but most of our housing here in Oroville was built in the 50s and 60s. How did that happen? Well, the story of Article 34 is that it affects a very, very small stakeholder group. It only affects public agencies that build housing. There's only one kind of public agency in the world that builds housing. That's housing authorities. And there's not many of us, so we don't have a big game to play. So this whole idea of we built all this housing in Oroville, how that happened, like many jurisdictions, there was a study done by HUD in 1969. Between 1950 and 1969, half of the voter referendums that asked for Article 34 authority failed. 15,000 units of HUD public housing were not delivered to California because of that. When HUD did a study in 1969, they discovered California was #1 in poverty, but 22nd in the nation in terms of housing availability. And they principally blamed Article 34. So it's been an obstacle to the production of public housing in the state. It's an obstacle to the production of any housing the Housing Authority wants to produce outside of private tax credit initiatives. So the affordable housing industry has evolved since the old days of public housing in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. We now have most of the housing you see being developed as affordable housing is tax credit subsidized housing. And all that housing is owned by private sector partnerships. The Housing Authority plays ball in those partnerships, but not as a public agency. So anyways, we ask for your forbearance tonight. Please help us out. And do you have any questions?
Vice Mayor Smith is on, or Vice Mayor Smith is on cue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ed, good to see you. It's
Nice
been
to
a
see you.
while.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm just going to have my soapbox for a moment because that particular project is not too far from where I live. And obviously, this goes before the voters, and so you need our approval to put that on the ballot. That's, I think, what we're asking for tonight. That Fog Avenue is really a mixed bag. You have mobile homes to moderate quality housing to a preschool, I believe was on that street. And then, of course, the county just recently built Prospect View right around the corner as well, which also provides special services for a particular niche of folks in our community that are challenged. I think probably a nice way to say it. I'm kind of conflicted a little bit on a personal note, in part because the county, all of the services obviously are up on that end of town. You have the jail. The jail is expanding. Let me just digress for a moment. You know, as a city, we've already met our arena numbers for providing for low income, right? So we're actually there and beyond already as a community. We've done a great job. And so now we're looking for an additional units. And I'm glad this is, ultimately, I'm going to say, let's just let the voters decide. But I'm just soapboxing because I want to see the county really be, you know, we talk about good neighbors, the jail. I've personally been impacted by releases from the jail. And so, and because we do have, you know, a plethora of low-income housing up there. And so I just have personal concerns. And so I'm asking the county to, you know, step it up, be super good neighbors in light of, you know, all the expanding services that are being provided up there. I actually had someone that got released from jail come onto my property, try to gain entry into my home. It was a very, you know, it was a moment. And so, you know, when you have those kinds of experiences, things like this get on your radar. Not to say that folks that live in this and are being provided these services are any more likely than anyone else, but from a statistical standpoint, right, we look at things. So I just want to say from my soapbox, county, please, as you know, you're expanding your services and doing what you're doing and expanding the jail, to always keep public safety number one in your mind. You know, we have a lot of residential communities, you know, obviously over in that part of our town. And there are real impacts to folks, and so that's just foremost on my mind as we, you know, consider this. So that's my soapbox.
Actually, that's great. You bring up some very good points. First, I do want to distinguish the Housing Authority of the County of Butte from the County of Butte. County of Butte runs, of course, everything on at Government Center and all those facilities, the jail, et cetera. The Housing Authority, we run Hammond Park, the public housing property there on Nelson Avenue. We're also, through our nonprofit partnership, instrumentality, we're partners in the Prospect View Apartments. So actually, you're talking to the people who run the property. Acknowledged, along Nelson Avenue, there has developed and will develop a core of, I'll call it regulated housing. I don't want to call it low-income housing necessarily, because we're not serving extremely low-income residents in most of that corridor. The Hammond Park project, being public housing, does serve households without regard to income, but the rest of the projects, whether you're talking Riverbend Apartments or the Prospect View Apartments, those have Section 8 subsidies. Those are specialty properties being run on very, very regulated environments, a lot of compliance monitoring, et cetera. So they're very well managed, and they have these different thresholds for affordability. So you don't have these high concentrations of extremely low-income residents. So the question has come, and I think it came by way of your development director here, Mr. Pyatt. Are we building too much affordable housing in Oroville? And we've discussed this before. The answer is what we're seeing built so far as a function of disaster response has been well absorbed. We're not seeing any surplus. There's a lot of pent-up demand. And a project like the one we're proposing here, even though it is in a part of the city, we'd like to find property elsewhere. This property came to the Housing Authority in 1990, and we've long since looked to develop it. The idea is we simply want to put projects in play in the pipeline. And so this project, if this were approved by the voters in the fall of '24, we would probably see delivered to the market in, what did we say, it was 26, I believe, sometime late in 26.
Yeah, I just want to add that
So-
Prospect View, I have heard of no trouble or problems with that
Okay.
particular problem that have come, my way, but, and it went up really fast and it looks good. I mean, I have to say that, and
you
it
for
seems to
saying
be
so.
well managed. So I have no complaints. I'm just, again, it's my soapbox because we have absorbed our fair share within the state and the requirements for these types of projects. And so I just think it's important
Excuse
to
me?
point that out.
Councilmember, I do want to say that I have been doing a preliminary, I have contacted me and my staff have contacted most of the property managers of the developments here to try to find out, one, what their vacancy rate is, and two, what their waiting lists are. And I've received over half of the information, and it is quite surprising. There is hardly any vacancy, and there is large waiting lists still. So even though we've hit our arena numbers, we have in Olive Ranch Senior Apartments, they have 79 people on their waiting list. Riverbend has 81 between the two properties. Mitchell has 8 on the waiting list between their two properties. And then I even had contacted some older, and I haven't gotten all of the responses back, but Boulder Creek, right now, they do have 10 vacancies, and they do have 10 people on their waiting list that they're trying to get through. So I'm still waiting for Sierra Heights and Hillview Ridge. Prospect View is a little bit different, and we also were a partner in that. We funded $1 million to that project. They have 1 vacancy, and they don't really have a waiting list because it's based on referrals from the Department of from DES, so they wouldn't have the same weight. So what I'll do is once I get all the information together, I will distribute that to you guys so that you have that information. And again, it does change from month to month in circumstances, but as of today, this is what they have. Or Olive Ranch Family Phase 1 and Phase 2, they have no vacancies and they have an over 12-month waiting list. So,
And just to restate, what we're doing here today, if we approve this, we're simply saying, voters, this is now in your hands to make that decision.
That's correct.
That's what we're doing.
That's correct.
Okay, Councilman Thompson's on the queue.
Thank you. In our last meeting, and prior to the last meeting, I was talking to some of our law enforcement. I actually, I'm in agreement with Vice Mayor Smith in regards to the amount of low-income housing that is coming to Orville, that we've hit those numbers. I would like to see, I would support more low-income housing in that area, how the current low-income housing that we've put in that area is affecting the neighborhood. I think we're putting a lot in at the same time. And I think to let the dust settle a little bit and see how that's affecting the neighborhood. I do know some people that live over there, and they have personally experienced a rise of crime, but I'm not going to say that their specific experience is the overall experience. So I would like to know from our citizens and from our law enforcement of where we're at, because to just very quickly put in a bunch more low income, in which we've asked for and we're looking for is medium, moderate, and high income, and that would help to vacate some of the lower income that we currently have, because there are people who are living in those places and could move up. So personally, yeah, I'm having a real hard time with this. I would like to see, again, mainly coming down to, I'd like to see how the current low-income housing, how that's affecting those neighborhoods before we just start adding more. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. I'm in the queue real quick, and one of the things I might ask Ed and Larry to do is describe the property. Basically, it's a vacant property with one house. It also, the Housing Authority took a look at putting in modulars or other cheaper housing, and tell us what happened with that.
Oh, okay. So after the disaster, of course, we were pressed for creating housing opportunity in the entire area. This is a piece of land the Housing Authority has owned for a long time. We got involved with how do we produce housing, alternate size housing, small size housing, because the families we were working with were elderly, single, smaller size households needing 1 and 2 bedroom units. We did an exploration. What's the best way to deliver units in the post-disaster environment? We did an examination of delivering manufactured housing versus stick-built housing, conventional slab-on-grade stick housing. And what we found was that they actually, both approaches ended up costing about the same. It costs less for a manufactured house to buy and put on a site, but it costs more for the foundation and utility work. It costs, with multifamily housing, slab on grade, you get a single slab monolithic building, your utility infrastructure is much less, and so the costs kind of balance out in the end. Ultimately, our board directed us after the exercise to move in this direction of conventional stick frame housing. But it doesn't really address the issue that the two council members have raised here tonight. And what it's hard to paint this picture, but the picture is that Oroville is full of low-income households. They're already here. They live here. They've lived here for a long time. The concentrations of low-income households are incredible in Oroville. You're an unusual jurisdiction. 60% of your renter households have been paying more than 50% of their household income for rent and utilities. That is a huge sign of socioeconomic distress, big red flags waving. How do you address that? Well, one of our two directions, providing housing capacity, opportunity, housing stock in the first place. Most of the housing you've seen delivered in the post-disaster era, most of these tax credit projects are being delivered at 50 and 60% of area median income. That's workforce housing. You have to work to live in that housing. It's not designed for people on fixed incomes. There are units in those properties, there are set-asides for some extremely low-income folks, but we're not concentrating extremely low-income households. They're not coming in from elsewhere. They are citizens that already live here who are getting a fairer shake than they used to get. Is the best way I can paint that picture.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
I would like to see, you should make a statement, I would like to see actually quantified and verified of its people who are moving into the current units are only Oroville residents, because that would beg to differ that the people who are moving into the units are not from Oroville, they're moving to Oroville for those units, people coming from outside the area. So if you were to say, you know, for the units that are currently been developed and for these units, these are going to go directly to our Oroville citizens, I would have a different thought process. But from my understanding, that is not actually the actual fact. So unless you can come up with data that shows the people who are moving into all these units that have been developed are specifically people who just moved from other places in Oroville to these units, then we can talk. But just to throw out that data without being, verified.
So, a couple things. That data came from the City of Oroville's housing element from 10 years ago. That represented the picture pre-disaster.
Sure. I'm talking about people moved in.
So
and who's
post-disaster,
moving in
into
these.
this housing. I can't speak specifically to the Oroville situation. I can speak to Glenn County and what happened to one of the properties we built up in not Corning, but
Orland.
Orland. We
Orland,
built a property up in Orland, and after it was placed in service, this was not long ago, we had a public official come to our public housing meeting asking where those people had come from. He had been to the local school when it opened, and there were some different families that were there, and they were living at this property. And so folks got excited. They came to our Housing Authority Commission meeting to ask what was going on. We said we'd do our homework. We would go look. And we did an evaluation. And in that 36-unit project, there were 5 households that had come from outside of the county. The rest had come from
That's not
inside.
Oroville.
No, but this is.
I understand, but I'm just saying, as an illustration, we receive these kinds of contentions often. And when we really dig into the truth of the matter, we find that it's not as big as we.
Well, I'd love to be
So
digged in and see
we were
what
happy to
the
do that.
results are for Oroville.
You bet.
Let me add too, that one of the reasons this is different is this project is going to be owned by the Housing Authority, not by any other entity. That's why the Article 34 has to be brought forward. That's the unique thing about this particular issue, and I appreciate the discussion, I appreciate the description. I know the Housing Authority went through a long dissertation. The end result is to build quality housing, so quality of life for whoever the occupants are. Councilman Johnstone's on the queue.
Thank you. So this is I am all for helping our citizens that, don't have the higher income. However, why was this not brought up during all of the low income, median income housing that we have been building? Why did we not place a focus on the extremely low income housing, for one? And two, I am in agreement with Council Member Thompson that from what I'm hearing, I can't prove, I don't have any proof, but from what I'm hearing is more often than not, people living in these housing that we were required to build are not Orvillian citizens. They are coming from outside of Orville, and therefore our citizens that you're saying from 10 years ago are the lower income are not filling these residences that we've been required to build. And then another thing is we've met our quotas on what we were supposed to do. We need to start bringing in more market rate housing so that we can bring the higher income people. We have the hospital coming in. I know that's not your forte or whatever, but we've met what we've needed to meet. I know that there's still a need. There's absolutely still a need for lower income housing. However, I'm not understanding why that wasn't an issue when we were made to build all of these medium income housing.
Okay, let me see, where do I start? First of all, this housing came by way of opportunity, special disaster funding, and there were, I believe, 7 or 8 different development entities that brought forward this housing. It really was a private sector response to the disaster. It was not coordinated by any governmental entity. One of the reasons the housing authorities thinks this project is important, it's the first time we've developed 1-bedroom housing in a long time. We've committed 6 Section 8 project-based vouchers to the 8 units. What we see coming is a demographic tidal wave. We see the elderly, the aging of our population. The baby boomers are aging out over the next 20 years. Half of the baby boomers are going to be aging out without any other income than Social Security. They need affordable housing. The fastest growing component of our homeless population right now are seniors. They need 1-bedroom units. I don't know about Oroville, but in Chico, our 1-bedroom units are oversubscribed 10-to-1. Our seniors and our disabled have an almost impossible time finding housing opportunity. This is specifically what this project is about.
Got it. Vice Mayor Smith is in the queue.
Yeah. Question, so do we need to make this decision tonight to get this on the ballot? Or can
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
So this is.
And I did want to remind you that this is to get on the ballot to where the rest of the citizens of Orville have an opportunity to vote. So it would go to everybody who voted to decide whether or not.
So the other part of that, it's not just in my district, it would be citywide.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So not just a district impacted by this project. Yeah, this is a little I wish we had more time for the collection of data. You know, an informed decision is always a better decision than, kind of, missing some, important. I think, and I really appreciate Councilman Thompson and Councilwoman Weber questions. Johnstone, excuse me. I'm sitting here processing while I'm talking. Yeah, I just wish we had more time to collect some of this and document some of this information. But at the end of the day, this does go before the voters, and the folks are the ones that are going to make the decision. So that's kind of my default on this. And that we're just giving the folks the opportunity to say yes or no. So I think that's important to clarify.
Councilman Thompson's in the queue.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, for the end of the day, for me, a couple of things. One is, you have stated thoughts on it, and I have stated thoughts and concerns from the citizens who've mentioned to me as far as, who've talked to me about the current development. For me, it still comes back to, I would love to have a actual quantified study that isn't just your thoughts or my thoughts or somebody else's thoughts, but an actual study to see what the current developments in that area, how they have impacted that community, and then move forward from there with actually facts and data, as opposed to just, because I know you talk about anybody talks about low-income housing, you're going to hear the NIMBYs, not in my backyard, people who, there's a stigma that can come with, and there's fears that can come with, and so having a educated decision is what I want. I would like to have a study done. The second thing is for me to vote yes. I know to say yes, all I'm saying is this goes forward to the voters, but I also feel with saying yes, it says I approve or I back it or I support it happening. And so with that, you're not going to see a yes, no vote for me because it's not something that I currently support.
Councilman Riggs is in the queue.
I just wanted to first say thank you guys for your work and for the work that you've already done in our community. And then second, a few others reminded us, and I was going to echo that, again, this is just about whether or not we want to give our citizens the right to weigh in on this decision. And also, that data is always helpful in an informed decision. And I would bet that the Housing Authority would want to have some data to back that in order to convince the citizens whether or not this was the right decision. So I would also encourage more data collection. And in our own practices, in the projects that we work with, in any opportunity that we have, specifying some parameters about percentages of people moving in who are already Oroville residents, whenever possible. I know that there's limitations there, but I'd love to see that in our future activities. So again, because it's just going to the voters, and because we do have time, between now and November to collect and disseminate that information. And I know that as a person in the community, I get asked about, well, what do you think about this often? And now we all, with that added data later on, we'll have more informed ideas about that. So thank you.
Okay. Real quick, for clarification, this issue is under Article 34, it would just tell the voters that the housing agency is the dedicated agency to provide housing, correct? I mean, the city of Oroville could choose to be its own housing authority if they wished, if by voter approval.
No.
If
I believe, yes.
So,
If the city of Oroville chose to go build and operate a home,
right.
they would be subject to Article 34 authority, correct?
If we chose to build a house or built an apartment house that was a market rate, we would have to be an Article 34 agency.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, I just wanted to get the clarification on it because,
Well, you wouldn't have to be an agency, you
Yeah.
would be one by
Right.
definition
Right.
since you're a public entity.
gotcha. But we'd have to get the voters to approve the Article 34 status if I'm.
No, not the
That-
Article 34 status, just the Article 34 is that you have to have permission of the voters to proceed with your plan to build
To an
housing.
agency. Gotcha.
Now,
Okay.
the last piece here, this site here, it is entitled, it is zoned properly, so there's none of those issues.
Right,
It's-
right. Gotcha.
But it's also, if what you're building is 49% low or very low income housing. So that is
That's the kicker in there. Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Smith is in the queue.
Couple of procedural questions when it comes to the vote. One, will the city then collect, can we, Mr. Administrator, can we put some time to this to collect some of that data that's been discussed? I'm not talking about prior, I'm kind of going to Councilwoman Riggs' conversation about, we have some time if we, obviously allow the folks to make this ultimate decision. Where I'm going with this is that Mr. Mayor has made the case that it's the local folks, it's not, because I'm totally opposed to this if we're bringing people from outside the area. And I would vigorously oppose the project if it seems like that's what's going to end up happening. If it's providing for our seniors and our locals and our Oroville folks, then I'm on board. But I'm concerned, and so we don't know. And so it makes it tough. But I want to know before the vote, right?
Before you vote.
And additionally, if we can have we can write a piece, like and the voter, right? You have the opposition voice and you have the for and the opponent. Can then we potentially touch that and let the folks know that this potentially could invite people from outside the area and or vice versa? This is going to predominantly provide for our citizens. And I'd like to have the opportunity to be able to, express that one way or the other moving forward. In other words, if you get a yes vote from me tonight to move forward to the next level, then I want to have the opportunity as a council person to be able to provide additional data to our folks so they can make that informed decision. And so that's what I'm at. So if you can tell me, yes, Councilman Smith, you can do that. We can provide that information to the voters, or we can have an opportunity to write something to express that, then you'll get a yes vote from me. If we can't do that, then you got to know, because I really appreciate the
Defer to your
information.
city attorney.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as an entity, the city has to follow the election laws with respect to any measures that are on the ballot, which means once it's approved to go on the ballot, you don't have an advocacy role one way or the other. You can provide factual information, and I provide a basically an opinion as to the effects of whatever it is that is either approved or not approved. But that's the extent of it. As a private individual, you can, do whatever you want to do. But as a city entity, we don't spend public funds on advocating one way or the other on a measure in that way. We can provide factual information, as long as it's factual information.
Sure,
It
and
can't be an
it should
advocacy
be.
position.
Right, and it should always be factual.
Correct, just like you would on any other measure, right? If you did a sales tax measure, once it's on the ballot, you don't have the ability to advocate, but you can say what the effect of passing or not passing it would do. You can have a spending plan, you can have all these kinds of things. So statistically, the proponent agency can provide information to the public and to you and whoever they choose to that, presents their position about what the construction of these units would accomplish and what they would do, who they would serve and those kind of things. But again, as a city, it's not an advocacy position one way or the other as an entity.
Okay.
If that makes sense, to be consistent with the election laws.
But as far as a statement, though, like a factual statement can be inserted into that.
Yes, but we wouldn't be expending public funds to develop, a statements designed for, an advocacy position one way or the other.
Okay, understood.
Okay. And
But we
I
can't, as
would
council,
reserve-
obviously, we can't, as elected officials, we can.
I'm happy to answer any
present our
further
opinion.
questions. I'm just giving you a statement of the general approach to the law rather than giving you particular advice, and I can give you more particularized advice offline.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Councilman Thompson's up too.
Last statement is if this resolution stated very specifically voter approval of low and very low senior, low-income housing, I would think differently about it. Or if you could confirm or put it in ironclad that this would be only open to our local citizens, since we've already met our quota, then I would think differently, but my thoughts still stand.
Fair enough. We cannot agree to the local preference or local exclusion of outsiders. It's discriminatory. And we're a public agency. We're not allowed to discriminate, particularly in regards to residency. It doesn't mean that we don't have other ways to tilt the table, but that's one item. To your first point, excuse me, what was your first point?
Seniors.
Oh, the seniors, going seniors. One of the reasons the Housing Authority is asking for this is we could have avoided all this by saying, we'll take 51% of these units and make them above 50% of median income, and then we're allowed to build by right. You have no say. But we're a public agency. We have a mission, and our mission is to low and very low income households, particularly vulnerable households. We want the freedom to be able to operate this property the way our Board of Commissioners, our governors, determines is best, because they represent the citizens of this county too. And they represent the low-income people of this county that need housing, and they make those decisions, and they don't make them lightly. So they've already made that decision to move forward with this initiative in this way. I respect that, and sorry, you're out of the room. But anyways, so this is important to the Housing Authority from this perspective. We're trying to achieve an end result where we're a public agency allowed to do as we see fit on our property without regulation, without restriction, without constraint. We're a public agency with a mission. Let us accomplish our mission, please.
Okay. I see no other, oh, Councilman Weber's on the queue.
Thank you. Does the Housing Authority currently have any single, one-bedroom units in Norville?
Yes, we have, I believe, 61 bedroom units at Winston Gardens Apartments. It's a senior project on Mitchell Avenue.
Say the number again, was it 16?
61 units, Winston Garden Apartments. It's a low-income public housing property over on Mitchell Avenue, right next to the new Mitchell Avenue 1 and 2
Okay,
apartments.
that's the newer one, okay.
Yeah, it's the older one with the copper roofs. And
Okay, gotcha, I know where it's at.
Housing Authority also owns a property on Park Avenue. What's the address, Larry?
2105 Park Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's an unregulated property the Housing Authority bought a number of years ago with bond proceeds, and we make available to low-income residents, but without a regulatory agreement. Simply
So,
because-
but is there, okay, let me restructure my question then. Is there a large demand?
Oh my goodness. For senior housing?
For, well, not only senior, but one bedroom, like a single?
Yes.
Right.
Disabled and seniors, homeless. We're talking about incredible demand for one bedroom, and particularly seniors. The aging out of our baby boomers, which is it's the fastest growing part of our homeless population. Seniors on the street, seniors in their cars. So singles and smaller units. One of the things we struggle with in public housing, like in Hammond Park, we have a lot of 3-bedroom apartments. They're not in so much demand anymore. We don't see large households. We used to house 6 to 8 people in a 3-bedroom apartment. Now we see 1 and 2, 3-person households showing up. We don't have the large Hmong families, the large Hispanic families anymore. So demographics are changing and they're aging. We're trying to build into that environment.
Okay, I have another question, if you don't mind.
Do that.
Are any of these, and if you already said this, please forgive me and I missed it, but are any of these like a transitional in nature, meaning they're not meant to be permanent, or it's more like, hey, we're going to use this as a stepping stone? Okay, so if they get it, they could stay.
We have 2 classes of property we work with in town. One is permanent, what we call permanent housing, and the other is permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is like the Prospect View apartments, where we have a very special needs population receiving very high levels of supportive services. Most of our other properties receive some modicum of supportive services, but it's not service enriched.
Okay. And third and final question, and if this is absurd, please forgive me, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work in Chico, and in particular, I work with the college community. And so a lot of the apartments over there, they've actually got every single door in, so they rent them out by the room, right? And then they have their own lock system and number system inside the house. So if I go to like apartment 11, it'll be A, B, and C, D rooms. Have you guys ever considered doing something like that with some of maybe the Hammond properties?
Yes, we have. There's, over the last 5 to 10 years, there's been some real swings in the Chico student rental market. And
Yep.
the student rental market is very different than the regular rental market.
Yeah.
And the student rental market, and particularly their new product, they develop these suites, 4 or 5, 6-bedroom suites, where a student will rent a room, and there's a common area, kitchen, living, et
exactly.
cetera, and you all share that. And the thought was, can we take this demand for 1-bedroom housing, these singles, these seniors, these homeless people, and put them in suites and have it function? And the answer is not really. It's just, how should I say, when we get older and we individuate, we don't do real well hanging out with each other. We get kind of ornery the older we get.
Get off my common area.
So kids can live together, their parents sign off on the rooms, but you try to take some folks who've been hardened on the streets and put them together in a suite. It's difficult.
I can appreciate that because I see it even with the younger crowd of the college students. I think they have conflict all the time. So it was just a thought. Thank you very much.
Very much, you're welcome.
All right. Oh, Vice Mayor Smith is back in the queue.
Yeah, just.
There you go.
Yeah, just wanted to, not to put our code enforcement on the spot, but Mr. Belser, because I think Mr. Mayor, what you're seeing here is our fatigue with all the low-income housing that we've put, and then some of the pushback from some of our constituency regarding that. And then, so for me personally, I'm a landlord, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and I agree fundamentally with where we're going as a society. I think you're well in the boundary of what's happening, and I'm concerned for in particular our elderly and the boomers, and they are aging out, and that is an issue, and I get all of that, but we're still fatigued right now, and it grows every day. But so just a question back to Mr. Belser regarding some of the properties that are managed by the Housing Authority. How are they doing? Are we getting calls for service issues?
So we do multifamily inspections, and they do an excellent job. And I've been wanting to speak about this. If you look at 2311 Fogg, if they had a picture of it, you would understand. And what surrounds 2311 Fogg, you're not going to get mid or upper class homes in that area. I'm sorry, you're not. And the idea of, and I can go on for days about the difference between an apartment and 1-bedrooms, you'll have a reduced calls for police services when you have 1-bedroom apartments in comparison to apartments or like Hammond Park, where you have multiple rooms, or when you talk about the idea of people living together in a common area, that will increase police calls for service over 70%. You don't want to do that. And if you look at the cost of living this day and age, and we talk about the baby boomers and the need for senior living, and, I mean, that's the idea behind that, if it was going to be senior. But I will tell you, it's my experience, and working in code enforcement, I've been doing that for about 9 years. You don't get the wave of outside people coming into the city because we're building low-income apartments. I will just tell you that Chico, Yuba City, other areas are doing the same thing that we're doing. They have the same regulations by the state of California that says you're going to build this many units. People like to stay in their hometown. And so it's just my experience in talking with people, and I love to talk to people, and a lot of the newer apartments that were built out in the Thermalito area, and talking to those folks, I mean, a large portion of those individuals are from our city limits or from Orville, or
So
just outside of city limits.
So just to re-clarify, your professional expert opinion is the construction of single units like this will not engender an increased call for service from law enforcement?
Well, I mean,
within reason. I get it.
Yeah,
And I'm not to
absolutely.
put you totally on the spot. I
I
mean,
mean,
again,
you can
stuff
put one
happens.
person in a neighborhood, and
Sure.
the cops will go there twice a day until they leave.
But just as a general rule.
Yeah, as a general rule,
Okay,
that is
fair enough.
that is the route you want to go. In this day and age, the environment that we're in, I mean, it's just a lot smarter way to build. And we do not have a lot of calls for service in that area of Fog Avenue. I'll just tell you, not a lot of police calls for service. And like I say, when you look at the surrounding area, you can hit a golf ball from there to the jail. You're not going to get mid to high income housing there.
And there's apartments across the way already, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
just think it's I love the idea of that versus apartments.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the input.
All right, gentlemen, we have Councilman Thompson in the queue.
So I appreciate the input. Also, can we get our Assistant Chief Darnell, his thoughts on these over there?
Well, sir, anytime you increase a population in a condensed area like a housing, like a new apartment complex or anything, it's naturally going to generate more calls for service. However, I don't want to speak out of turn. I will compile some statistical data from our records management system and present that to the council in the very near future.
That's helpful, yeah, thank you.
I do want to say that after last meeting and Councilmember Thompson's concern, I did speak to Chief Lagrone and asked his opinion about the increased calls for service, and he had the same comments that Assistant Chief Darnell did, and that anytime you put more people in a space, there is going to be the potential for more calls for service, but he has not seen, without accumulating statistics, any increase that is concerning.
Your question's done. Councilman Weber's on the queue.
Yeah, one quick comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to come out with, when I vote right now, it's not going to be in support or against, because I do hear the concerns, and I see the pros and the cons of, of all of it. But I am going to vote yes right now, because more importantly than whether or not I have my own opinion on it, I want to give the public their opportunity to weigh in on it. Because I think education, if they want to educate themselves on this subject, and then we'll leave that up to them.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm ready to roll if you guys are, and I'll be voting yes.
I motion that we adopt resolution 9281 and 9282.
I'll second.
Before we vote, do we have any cards on this item? Public comment?
We do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right, call the roll.
And I'll just say, based on the comments from Mr. Belser and Darnell, very hesitantly.
You had me going the other way a moment ago.
You got a tough battle with the citizens, for sure.
I think so, yeah. You're right.
And my vote yes is not a vote of support of this project, but a vote, and I want to be very clear, it's not a vote of yes of supporting the project, because, as I've already stated, very much that I don't see, as far as a study, I don't see all the data presented to support the project, but I'll support the project to go to the citizens, and then you can fight it with them.
Your motion passes unanimously.
Go ahead.
If I may, I want to say thank you for your serious consideration. I mean, really, you chewed on this really well. But I mean, in a really constructive way. It was a good conversation. One of the housing authority's roles is not just to develop and provide housing opportunity, but is to educate. And this has been a wonderful interaction here. So thank you for your time and indulgence in having that conversation. But we look forward to a conversation with the citizens of Oroville. Our job is to educate the public about the importance of affordable housing and why it's important to bring these projects forward. So we'll do the best we can. Anyways, thank you very much.
Ed, I want to publicly to congratulate you on your retirement,
Yeah.
which is coming forward.
Thank you, sir.
And Larry, congratulate you on the new position.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
Can I make a comment? Will you write that in the article in the paper? Make sure you add Councilmember Thompson's.
All right, folks, number 9, amended and restated legal services.
All right, I'll take this one on really quick. This is a contract amendment with Cole Huber LLP. They have provided legal services for the city since, I believe, 2010. They have kept their rates really below market for many, many years, and specifically have not had an increase in their hourly rates in over 3 years. So this would keep the contract with them the same, with the exception of increasing the hourly rate by $50 an hour for both their general legal services and for their litigation services. Happy to answer any questions.
Any public comment cards?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Council members?
I like you very much. But how is Huber doing?
He's doing fine. When he's not here, I'm here for you.
Right.
And
All right,
I
I
just
just
make
know
sure
that-
I contact all the department heads when I'm here, and I want to make sure we keep things moving.
Of course, and I appreciate that. I just know that Huber was, going to be in and out for a little while, and
He's taking, he took a little bit of time. His daughter graduated from college at
Yeah.
BYU, and, he has a very full plate. So I'm very happy. You've known me for years, but I'm very happy to step in more regularly for you guys. And, yeah, it's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It has been great.
Other items on the queue, I'll entertain a motion.
So I will.
9.
9.
I make a motion to approve amended and restated contract with Cole Huber LLP and adopt resolution number 9.
The second.
Call the roll, please.
I hate to be I'm like the wrench in the gears tonight, but I guess it's my night. I would like to ask for, I'm going to vote yes for this, but I would like to ask for a study on a comparison analysis of having somebody, there was a time and a place where we were basically a skeletal crew and had a lot of things farmed out, but I would like to a study on if we were to continue on, especially with these new numbers, as opposed to having an in-house attorney to maybe handle 90% of our stuff and then outsource some of the litigation stuff. And I appreciate them keeping the cost low for us, but I think to be responsible to our citizens, that we need to not just go with what we have, but to do a study to see what's best for our community and what options we have.
With that so noted.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you all. Next item is public hearings, and we have no public hearings scheduled for this meeting. Public communication here of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards for non-agendas?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
None? All right, next up, future agenda items and correspondence. Any council members have a future agenda items? Councilman Weber.
Yeah, I have like 5 of them, so please bear with me.
Okay.
2 of them I talk about all the time, so it's gonna be real easy. And Fred's already working on these. I know the flag being permanently raised up on the pole. I know that's already being worked on, but I just want to raise it again. The preferred local contractor preference ordinance, I'd like to, I want to be the, I want to get that rolling. And then I got 3 that are new. I'd like to research our ordinances related to disposal of solid waste for multifamily properties, including low-income facilities, and to have code enforcement look into that as well for the current ordinances. It's come to my attention that there's a property that is consistently having a bunch of trash out front, and the neighboring businesses are being affected by it. So trying to figure out how we could figure out a way where we could maybe apply to our current ordinances and add like a daily fine if they're out of compliance. I'd like to look into that. The second thing I'd like to research is whether the city, we actually addressed this a long time ago, and I don't know if we ever circled all the way back with it, but research whether the city can ban scavenging in cans that are out on the curb, okay? So I'd like to, because this same property has a scavenging problem with people that are ripping through the cans. And then I see it on my street as well. As a matter of fact, I don't put my can out until the last second, because every Wednesday, my trash is dumped on Thursdays, and every Wednesday night, I see all my neighbors' cans getting tore up, and then I don't put mine out overnight. And then I also wanted to research if we could research related to rent control ordinances. From what I understand, there's a ballot going on, the measure going on the ballot in November that's going to have to do with rent control in California. But it's come to my attention that one of the properties that I actually work for, they have a new manager on site that has taken the rents from I think it's $900 a month for a 1-bedroom up to $1,300 for a new for a new lease. And then for all the existing people that are inside this apartment complex, they're raising all the rents by a minimum of $100 per unit. And so I want to look into if we can, and I know that's not without controversy, rent control ordinances, but I think I actually know a lot of people in that apartment complex that are going to be greatly affected by this increase. And I think, $1,300 is quite a bit of money for a 1-bedroom. And I don't think this is our local economy, I don't think that merits that. So I think we should probably kind of look into that. So that's all I got.
Okay. I have one issue that I'm going to ask staff to come up with a policy on, and this is kind of a particular spot problem, but one of the worst things we have in this community is when people come off the freeway and they go underneath the underpass, they're presented a very negative part of Oroville. So, and I know sometimes we refer to people problems to the police department, but I don't think it's just a police department problem. So I'm looking for staff to come up with a policy, ordinance, whatever staff suggests, to eliminate the exposure that we have underneath the underpasses at the off-ramps, and if you all know what I'm talking about, and the collection of debris and the collection of other things, because sadly, that's probably everyone's first impression of Oroville is those underpasses.
And sometimes only.
And we seem to be the only community that I know of that has this off-street ramp problem. And so I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just asking that could staff take a look at and come up with a policy or a spot problem that we could eliminate what's there, I guess is the term to use, because it is a terrible impression that people get, and part of attracting people to a community is, on the approach, what do you see? We're working on Ordam Boulevard. It's going to be really nice to have curb gutted sidewalk on both sides of that road. I have to admit, I'm a little troubled by it because I'm not used to it possibly even being there. So that's a plus. But at the same time, there's that connection when you come off the freeway, and both the underground underpasses are a problem. And I'm just looking for some staff policy, suggestion, ordinance. I don't care if we got to put people down there 24/7 or cameras or something. I'm just throwing it out to staff to come up with some ideas to how to eliminate that issue that's going on there. So, and it ain't easy. It's not an easy policy because it's a chore. But as I go around other communities, I think we're the only ones that have the off-ramp problem. I don't find it anywhere else. So this is my suggestion, policy idea. Okay, Councilman Thompson.
I completely agree. I've actually talked to our Assistant Chief Darnell about this, and I think part of it is, panhandling is not illegal, and, citizens and all that kind of stuff, and freedom. But I think there is things that we can do that would make it a little more uncomfortable, because I agree.
I'm like, and I
Even if
agree
it's
with you. Yeah.
just approaching and asking questions.
I don't want to put it on one department. I
Right.
think it's a citywide thing that we have some way to citywide,
Yeah.
tackle the
But
problem.
even if it was just law enforcement, just
Yeah.
regularly, when somebody's there, finding out who they are and just
Right.
just being there as a presence and asking questions
Yeah.
makes it a little more uncomfortable for them to be there. But I also just wanted to talk about, just mention, I think the rent control thing, I think it is something that would be good for us to talk about and discuss, and maybe have it on the agenda, and maybe have people that are part of rental agencies and whatnot, and hear their perspective on it, because I do know some people who own properties, and the amount of increase on fire insurance is driving some landlords just to, consider just selling off, because the limit on increase to them, then the limit on increase from, I think fire insurance is the big one that's hitting everybody. And the major increases, property insurance, property taxes and whatnot. It's a real difficult economy right now, and we're just probably gonna look to moving towards a more socialistic society where the government has to own it.
Yeah, there is the law in place that does protect or limit what landlords can raise, the CPI plus 5%, or up to 5%,
There's
10%
limit,
max.
for sure.
But to your point, it is, obviously there's landlords out there that are gonna go to the extreme and go as far as they can. And there's other ones that are gonna go out there and they're gonna try to cover their costs. And we all know costs, whether it's insurance or cost of goods and repair and maintenance, and everything has gone up drastically. So it's like you said, it's challenging times.
Councilman Weber.
Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that it's very, very unsightly. It's very unfortunate that we see these individuals down there. One of them that is at the Oro Dam exit, I've actually known him for almost 30 years, and to watch him spiral further and further into mental decay due to his choice in illicit drug use has been sad and unfortunate. His name's Geronimo, and like I said, I knew him when I was a younger man, and he was actually a functioning, although still a drug-using member of society, he was certainly not what he is today. And I've tried to talk to him, and he's just almost completely unresponsive. But with that being said, some time ago, I was proposing that perhaps we look into a sidewalk pressure washing program. I've seen this in Carson City, Nevada, where they implemented a sidewalk pressure washing program, and they would come along and basically sweep the sidewalks all the time using pressure washing. But in this case, I think that we could probably explore an option of maybe looking at either two things that I was thinking about. Perhaps maybe adding that as an element to some of the stuff that Ron does at code enforcement, with the pressure washing setup, or we could just put out an RFP for a pressure washing, company to come along, and that would do two things. One, it would encourage, they wouldn't be able to congregate for long periods of time, and two, it would get rid of the smell, because there are times during the summer underneath there, because of the urine, you could smell it when you're sitting at the stop signs right there. So, again, it's a balancing act. Like you want to have compassion for the person that is obviously afflicted, but you also have to, maintain the aesthetics of our entry points to our city, right? So how do you balance it out? So I'd propose we look at something like that, like implement some sort of, pressure washing program, plus combine that with the community navigator program that exists, that works with MLEs and the housing navigators, and like how do we build a coalition that works on this issue?
I will say Ron and I have spoken about this. I believe the fire department, I believe, does go out there. It's not a pressure washing, but I believe they do go out there periodically and try to hose out those areas. I'm not sure how frequent, but we can
I will
certainly, we
just
can
tell you
certainly
that-
increase that.
Yeah, our City Works team is out there daily
Yeah,
in that area, every morning, cleaning up
yeah.
and, doing their best. There are still laws out there that protect individuals in public spaces, and there might be a change in that in the near future when the grants pass, decisions made at some point. But as of right now, Martin B. versus Idaho says it's a public space.
Yeah.
647C of the California Penal Code says you can't block a sidewalk. That is that area in there is very narrow. I've worked with Caltrans in the past about putting chain link from the top of the freeway down, covering the area where they climb up under the overpass. That's still a possibility. Aesthetically, it doesn't look very good, but that's one of the things that other cities do to try to prevent that. So the only option they have is to be on a sidewalk. You can't block a sidewalk.
Yeah.
So that's your ability to move individuals out of that area.
Appreciate the work on it, because this is, like I say, it's a company-wide program. It's not any particular, and I know your efforts, and I forgot to mention that. Yeah, you've had good efforts there. It's something that we have to develop as a policy for, and we got to think of it from our people that are commuting in the community. That's their first impression, so that's why we want to look at it. Appreciate that. Who's up next?
I am.
Oh, Vice Mayor Smith, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just briefly on a comment. There is an advantage to living in the city limits. It's called typically you're going to have lower insurance costs when it comes to fire. Some of the folks living in the East Foothills are paying $7,000 to $12,000, and they're forced to go onto the FAIR plan, which is just fire only. So, and typically as you move into the city limits, and your insurance does go down, so therein lies a cost benefit. Additionally, the fire-safe communities, which was brought up earlier by the cameraman, I believe. So I have applications actually next door in my office for that. And there is a benefit, some of the insurance companies now, if you develop a fire-safe community, which they like it to be small, 10, 15, 20 households going in together and creating a fire-safe community. So that's something that's open to all citizens of Oroville to apply for, and that potentially you can get, like I said, a break on your insurance. So that's just good information, and something we probably ought to think about and follow up, especially this time of year. It's kind of on everyone's radar. So thank you.
Okay. Seeing no items, we have a number of correspondence items. Sadly, most of them are the high school district, school facilities fees, and the Palermo Elementary School facilities, and I noticed Pioneer also school facilities. So all the fees are going to be ramping up. I should also mention that the County of Butte is seeking input for their 1 cent sales tax, which may be on the ballot. It hasn't been officially put there, but we've had a number of presentations. I think I've been to 3 of them. We had a nice one at the State Theater. So the information is getting out there, and we certainly suggest the voters get the information. Councilman Riggs.
Thanks. Before we adjourned, I just wanted to make sure that we took a moment to recognize Mr. Belser for his 13, right? In my head it says 11, but 13 years of service to the city of Oroville.
Well done.
As of last week.
All right, well, that being said, I will move to adjournment of this meeting. The next regular meeting of the Oroville City Council will be held on July 2nd, 2024 at 4 p.m. Thank you all for being here tonight.